Hello, everybody.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
I am Janae Strother.
I'm Sean Spencer.
Back.
We are back.
We are back, ladies and gentlemen.
I gotta go out and hold up.
Come on. The lion. Here. The lion. New man so fine. Kirk Cousins. Woo!
Yeah.
All right. I am Janae Strother.
I am Sean Spencer.
And this is Let's Talk Football.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? It's your boy, Sean Spencer, one half that dynamic duo. It is Let's Talk Football. And ladies and gentlemen, this is Wednesday. Happy Hump Day. You already know what it is. Washington Football Weekly. And I'm here with my buddy. I'm here with my guy, straight from South Carolina. The defensive back, you. Right man, Will Kramer. What's going on, Will? How you feeling today, man?
Hey, man, how you doing?
I'm doing well, man. You are
Excellent. Yeah, another great Wednesday, another great night to talk Washington football. What could be better?
absolutely. Yo, shout out to our two other co-hosts, Anton Benton. Got some work, taking care of business. Shout out to you, my man. Definitely also want to shout out your girl, Stephanie. Just got finished with her certification to be a life coach. Is actually live right now, doing a seminar, doing some things. She's doing big things, y'all. Yo, you need somebody to talk to, somebody that's moving in the right direction. Hit her up, Stephanie Fuchs. So cool, man. So cool. Also want to shout out the Shirtless Wonder, Ab Low, man. I'm gonna go ahead and assume you're working, man. I'm going to assume you're working because I haven't heard from you, man. So hopefully, hey, if you're not, get on here as soon as you get this, man.
How do you think the ladies are going to take that tonight, Sean?
I know,
eye
hey.
candy.
All right, too much. We got too much clothes for them, man. You know what I mean? We're dressed. Sorry about that. If you are looking to see Washington Football Weekly's own Shirtless Wonder, hopefully he will be with us soon, but he isn't with us now. But we have to get into it, ladies and gentlemen. And as you know, we always start off the show talking about our birthdays. And I have to, first and foremost, apologize. I have to apologize to my homegirl because I got to tell you, your birthday was a couple days ago. It was on Saturday, and I didn't say anything because I wanted to get you on the show to say it, but we didn't have it. Happy birthday, Delilah Crespo. You already know You was my road dog and my road homie straight out of Chicago, man. Yo, if you do not know, we have on Let's Talk Football and Roundtable, we have a segment called Diversity with Delilah, where Delilah will shout out some old former players, maybe some women that are coming into the league as coaches or officials. She'll shout out maybe some younger guys that maybe you haven't heard of the Latino and African American community, just diverse, just people that you have not heard of. I would highly recommend you check that out. It's on YouTube, Diversity with Delilah. So shouts you out, Delilah, man. You are a rock star. Never turned me down anytime I've asked you to do a show with me. So I so
That's
appreciate
awesome.
it.
Happy belated to her.
Happy belated.
She does a great job, and you will learn something every time with her segment. You will learn something.
You know what? I absolutely, and that's the thing that I love about Delilah. I'm going to tell you, even from the first time that I met her, she is such a diehard football fan, diehard sports fan. I mean, if you don't know, she is basketball, she is baseball, she is football, she is everything. And she amazes me with a lot of the knowledge and stuff. I call her the Latina Adam Schefter, because every time he has an update, she has an update.
Yeah.
So I love that. I absolutely love that, man. Yeah, and she dominates the game. Definitely gives the smoke to me and Nick.
Good for her.
Exactly. Holds her own, no doubt. Oh man. So also definitely I'd be remiss if I did not shout out also my surrogate mother, my old next door neighbor, Miss Nina Allen. Want to shout you out. Happy belated birthday. I know your birthday was over the weekend. I just wanted to let you know we care. We are so happy for you. We love you so very much. Shout out to her husband, Bo. He's in hospice right now, so really going through. Just had his Father's Day. Jen Allen, next door neighbor. She graduated our year.
Yes, know the name.
Yeah, so she she was over there with her mom for the birthday, and Kat and I were actually we actually visited. I'm gonna say about not even a year ago, probably 4 or 5 months ago. And he's been in and out of hospital. So just keep him in your prayers. Bo Allen, man, 6 foot plus, used to being, a band guy, used to picking up all the heavy equipment and everything. Now just kind of, bedridden and dealing with a lot of stuff. So just pray for them, pray for that family, man, and just that, God takes care of it. And definitely got to shout out our guy, David Saul, went to Herndon with us, played ball with us, known the man for a minute, man. So that's what's up. I talked to him. He watches the show every here and now, definitely comments and says some stuff. Want to shout you out, man, because you do good things, man. I definitely follow you on Facebook and all that stuff. We got Wendy watching us, talking some Go Pack Go. Yeah.
Check out. She happen to be a Packers fan right now.
Right.
Blake Bortles is going to be your starter.
Right. Oh, Blake Bortles and Jordan Love. That competition should be interesting.
Good luck.
You can have that. Yo. Oh man. But so we always have our happy birthdays, but we also have to talk about some things that might be a little more sobering. Rookie defensive end Jalen Twyman. Out of Pitt, just got drafted by the Vikings, was shot 4 times while visiting family in D.C. Recently over this weekend. He's a D.C. native, went to H.D. Woodson High School. And Will, you never want to hear this. This is terrible.
It's scary.
Yeah.
Yeah, regardless of, I think when it was first, came across the news feed, it was saying, they're not life-threatening, but hey, I don't care. That is scary, and you just hope that he's able to continue to rest and recover, and to be able, for a chance to fulfill his dreams, but just also then just to have a normal, healthy life. Yeah,
that's. I hate to hear it, and it's crazy because it really brings it home. Like when I was reading up on him and the story, is the fact that he's from D.C. He's from, went to H.D. Woodson. Like this is right around here. You don't think about it. He went to Pitt and played. He gets drafted. You're super excited for him, but it's just like you can't. It just it doesn't. No matter how high you can get from getting drafted and getting out of certain situations, sometimes things bring you right back to it. You can't escape it always. And that stinks. So, shout out to you, Jalen, man. Hopefully, man, you get well, heal quickly. Don't worry about football right now. Worry about health. There's more important things in this world than in playing football right now. So, shout out to you, buddy. Moving on, as you know, this is the month of June, so we have to shout out our brothers and sisters in the LGBTQ community. Happy Pride Month, like we talked about a couple weeks ago, and we'll be shouting out every week on the show during the month of June. And we just had an amazing situation happen. Carl Nassib, the defensive end for the Raiders, on Instagram came out. He came out and now is the first openly gay active player. Great timing. Great situation. I love it. What do you think, Will?
I'm going to quote our current president when he was vice president, when he turned to then President Barack Obama and said, "This is a big," he said, "a freaking deal."
Yep.
This is a big deal to have an active player come out as gay. Yep. And first off, kudos to him to feel comfortable doing this, because he's got been harboring these feelings for a while. and wondering, what can he share, what can he not share with his teammates? Who knows? Maybe his teammates knew all along. We don't know that.
Right.
I mean,
right.
Why I think this is such a big deal is I think I wonder who is next and who will come. What is going to be the snowball effect from this?
Right.
Because there's been long rumors, years that there have been gay football players, but they would just never admit it publicly. And I believe even when this happened, some former players, not of a great name, have said, this is great because I had teammates that I know were, but they kept that inside, which, that's not healthy, and I think, the timing of it probably is important. I think he picked the right month, where you can get a little bit more support of it. I think the culture that we have right now, a little bit more accepting, I think is good. I see nothing but positives of this for him. And I think from so far, it certainly sounds like his teammates and the Raiders organization is 100% behind him. And that is the best situation that he could be in. And I hope he has success this year, not because of that, just I hope it's a successful, decision and situation.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, like, I hope that doesn't overshadow either his success or lack of success this year. Like, I hope that we're not sitting here and highlight it. Kind of like, brings me back to Michael Sam's, 2016?
Somewhere in the mid part of the decade.
Yeah, shout out to him being the first openly gay man drafted into the league. But you knew he faced a lot of stuff. But wherever he went, regardless of how well or how poor he played, that gay label was tagged on him, and it was used even if it was not knowingly. It was used somewhat in a detriment to him, being like, oh, who is so and so and so openly gay man. Kind of like similar to what they did with the African Americans in the past. Oh, this guy is a great blah 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 black player, black.
Mm-hmm.
Da, 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 da. You know what I mean? So I hope that does not, pigeonhole him in any of this. Like, he's a great player. He's been in the league. It'll be his 6th year. Like you had mentioned actually that he was on Hard Knocks. He got drafted by the Cleveland Browns, and he played a couple years for Cleveland, a couple years for Tampa. Last year he played for the Raiders. And to your point, Will, when you're playing with guys, and I've played football, we've all played sports. When you're playing with guys and you're on a team with guys and you're working with them, game after game, week after week, you get close to them. You get real, I'm not saying super intimate, but you get to knowing a lot about them. In this day and age where everything is more open and knowledge is more available, more readily available, I believe I have to make an educated guess that most people wouldn't know. You know what I mean? The timing is absolutely right. It was perfect. The right time to do it. But I wonder if it was just a formality because he hadn't done it, or if he really opened up and said, "Hey, I'm opening up to the world."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, I think we've both had. I'm sure we both have had situations where friends or coworkers, colleagues, whoever, when they've come out to you, you may have been like, "Mm-hmm, yes,
right,
I knew," like known for a while,
right.
that type of stuff. But it still is a big deal for them, and so you never want to obviously take that away from them. But like you said, it could be somewhere his teammates be like, or so now. So I was like, oh, okay, so now okay, great. Now
right.
that we can get past this and move on to business of the Raiders, for their perspective, because to them it may not be a big deal that they've known. I think the fact that we're making steps towards progress. We had one guy who got drafted, whether that was what's his name, Jeff Fisher, throwing the commissioner a bone because Michael Sam didn't make as much of an impact in the NFL that he did in college because he was a productive college player. But now we've got a current player. What's good? Wait until it's we've got a superstar.
Yep.
We're only trending in the right direction. This is the first step, and that's also where like I hope this is a positive experience so that if there are others out there, they feel comfortable. If sharing that is important to them while playing, if they can go ahead and do that.
Right. And I think that's a key point, man, because a lot of, when you think of Michael Sam's, you know, although he was, you know, co-SEC player of the year, but he really had a very underwhelming year. I believe he played maybe 2 years in the league and then played elsewhere. You know what I mean? So he didn't do anything that jumped off the page where you're like, oh my goodness, you know what I mean? Outside of having the label of the first gay man drafted, you know, and similar to Carl Nassib, where, I mean, if you're a hardcore football fan like us, maybe you've heard of him.
He's a journeyman.
He's been around the league. You know, I told you off screen, I've heard of his family member, and I remember hearing the last name, and I was like, Nassib, but he didn't play defensive. But his brother played. Where did his brother?
Quarterback of Syracuse, drafted by the Giants. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's people. I believe people knew, especially when you have siblings that are in the league. Like, people know you guys hang out outside of work, outside of this and that. People know and talk. But again, I'm glad he was able to come out. Now, my question, Will, not to belabor, this issue. We're very far from, where we were in maybe the 90s and the 80s and even before that, where it was a mum is the word. We represent Washington football team. We can go back to the early days, the 70s with the Redskins. Tight end Charlie Smith? The tight end, no, Jackie Smith. Mm-hmm. The tight end that was closeted gay.
You're teaching me something. I didn't know this.
I don't think his name is Jackie Smith. It's something Smith. He was a tight end for the Washington Redskins. During the years of Charlie Taylor and Bobby Mitchell, he was closeted as a homosexual. He actually wrote a book. Let me see. Let me read this out. Yeah, Jackie Smith played for Washington, and he also played. No, that's a different Jackie Smith. I'll get that for you in a little bit. Okay. But yeah, definitely played in the league, was closeted. He came out, wrote a book after the fact, but to the point that we were making earlier, a lot of his friends and a lot of his teammates knew. A lot of it, and at a certain time you go to certain places, you get a feel for these things. A lot of these guys knew, but they kept it to themselves because obviously people's lives were ruined once they were outed back in the 70s and 80s. Hopefully now it is more open and it is more, as we've seen, it's more widely accepted. But you got to think, though, Will, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's still kind of taboo in certain places, especially we're talking the NFL. We're talking testosterone you know what I mean? We're talking, these guys beefcaked up all the time. Yeah. That just seems to me like something that would put a target on my back. I mean, am I wrong? Like,
no.
You know what I mean?
No, you're 100% right, and that's kind of showing the gravity of the situation. To understand that, for the boldness that he has to admit it publicly, meaning that people are going to watch. When he gets on the field, eyes are going to be on him. They're going to watch who is he up against, what tackle is he up against, and does he beat them? And yeah, because while you and I sit here applauding him, while we see messages of teammates applauding him and showing support, we don't know if that's completely league-wide. Yes. And I mean, with as polarized as our country is right now, there is there's a significant portion of our country that, beliefs are against his thought process,
Yep.
and that has to trickle into the locker room from coaches or players. And so, we're not in a perfect kumbaya moment, for him to be a part of this. And so, that's why, I just keep going back to it. It's like you want this to be such a positive experience then for him.
Yeah, absolutely. And back to my original comment, the player's name was Jerry Smith. He was a tight end for Washington from 65 to 77. Played 13 seasons in the league, but definitely kept kept everything close to his vest. But I remember hearing interviews with, I think it was Charlie Taylor and some of the other guys that were on the team that were saying, certain times when you come out, everybody's relaxed and you're like, let's go out. We went to a certain place and he maybe went elsewhere.
Yeah, didn't show as much interest.
Right. And that's as subtle and it is powerful as that was. That's what they did, and they kind of understood it. Do your thing. I've been in the locker room. You know what I mean? Hey, to each his own. But I've been in the locker room, and I kind of get why that might be a little iffy.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Right, and again, and a lot of it is just the knowledge of the situation. A lot of it is breaking down the stigma of what this entails and that. So, hey, at the end of the day, shout out to you, Carl, man. Hopefully this does nothing but positive things for your career. And hey, hopefully you have a good season. And hey, back to your point though, Will, if he has a mediocre season, gay is the only thing he'll be labeled with. You know what I mean? Unfortunately, if he doesn't do anything that's all, I mean, I'm saying even Pro Bowl, anything that's off the Richter scale, he's just going to be tagged as Carl Nassib, defensive end, Raiders,
first
homosexual.
opening game. Yeah, because
Right.
and I don't necessarily know if he is, destined to be that type of player. So yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, we shall see how that goes. But we must move on. Shout out to him for sure. We must move on. And another thing, and we've been hitting on this a lot, and we actually got into a good conversation off camera about this. Still looking for the name, guys. We are still looking for a name. Washington football team denied trademark request by the U.S. Patent Office. Will, we've been in this for how long? How long are we going to be in this? This is, come on, man. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous.
So I kind of think of this in two ways. The first one is I really look at this as a business sense, business decision. So the team is looking to make as much royalties off of anybody using that name as possible. Who knows? Maybe with the standpoint of even using Washington football on our team name could be some type of violation that we should be paying royalties to them. So they're trying to squeeze every penny out. That kind of does seem a little bit more like a Dan Snyder, Bruce Allen type move. But that's not to say that, like, from a business standpoint, it doesn't make sense. But what this reminds me of is around this time last year, maybe about a couple weeks later, at this time last year was when the name changed, and it was announced that the name would change. And one of the things they said afterwards, which I didn't quite understand or believe, Ron Rivera, for as much as I support him, came out to say, well, Mr. Snyder, brought this idea to me shortly, after I took the job. He's like, well, what do you think if we were to change the name? My thing is, if that was the thoughts you were having, we'd have a name right now.
Right.
We would not be in this limbo period of temporary names. Now, it has come out. Kevin Sheehan of Team 980 has some connections inside the organization and has said that, like, all along, Warriors was meant to be the name that if he had to change it to, he would. Right. And I think Snyder, got kind of with the logo that I'm wearing right now, and got told, like, you can't just flip over to a team name. There needs to be more of a rebranding, and I think that changed. And so, if they really were having conversations, they would have done better business sense to have some trademarks, and we wouldn't be in a situation where dude owns 50 some or whatever of the possible links to anything that could be Washington next.
Right. Come on.
and I will say, I really hope that, they're going to have to pay up at some point, whether they have to pay the Arkansas State university for the use of Red Wolves, or if they have to pay this guy. Like, I'm not worried about that happening, but I hope what Abdul said is so true. I hope he follows up with it, where the dude just wants to donate that money to charity. Like if he's willing to do that, then great job for being a squatter on this. But part of me is like, come on, dude.
Right.
You need to get a name. You need to relinquish it, and let's move on.
Yeah, he's holding us hostage. He's really holding us hostage right now. Yo, and shout out to my co-host, okay? My main partner in crime for the fall, Let's Talk Football, has been commenting. Janae Struther, talking great topics. Gonna talk some Washington scrubs. Really? Did we beat you twice?
Yeah,
with no
come
name?
on now.
Yeah, we don't need a name. That's right. You're absolutely right.
Washington first place?
Yeah, right. Division leaders, playoffs. Is that what we are? Shout out to you. So good. Glad you're back. Definitely keep tuning in. But yo, Will, back to what you were saying. Absolutely right. This guy, I mean, he has us. He has it. Martin McCauley has. If you do not know, Martin McCauley is the guy that trademarked most of those names. What were some of the names they trademarked? The panda. Let me look that one up.
Yeah.
And it was something like the pandas, some like
Americans, natives.
Americans.
So
Yeah.
I think he had renegades. Anything Native American that kind of branched off. Braves.
Mm-hmm.
He might have had monuments. I mean, 44. It's pretty much if you've come up with the name, he's trademarked it. I think minus Red Wolves because that would be Arkansas State. But like everything else, he's seems to have snatched them up.
Right. And you look, so like Ab said, on one side he's mad because he didn't think about that. You know what I mean? That's the idea. You know what I mean? It's like I was telling somebody right before the pandemic, if somebody would have told me that Zoom was going to take off like it would, I would have put serious money in the Zoom stock. You know what I mean? Because, for the future reference. But it's crazy because he was sitting on these for years. This just happened. He's been squatting on these for a good amount of time with no knowledge of anything really happening until for things to have turned out the way that they did and are happening the way now. And now he's got us, right? Like, it's like,
yeah.
Hey, go ahead.
I was gonna say I don't buy any of the bull that they're trying to spin on saying, oh yeah, Washington football team was just so we could come up with something. I mean, I think I give them credit for saying if we're going to do a complete rebrand, which they brought in so many outside people, that makes me fully believe that minus the colors, I'm sort of embracing the fact that it's going to be a completely new thing. Like it might be something like the monuments or the generals, like nothing having to do with anything that we've said or even, would think it could slide over to, complete rebrand. Then taking your time is important.
Yeah.
But if you really were serious about this, if you really was saying internally, maybe Redskins needs to be retired, you would have done something more.
Yeah, exactly. And again, like we discussed kind of off camera, what did they really have the issue with? Was it the actual name that offended people? What I respect, look, for any of those communities that are offended by the name Redskins, I completely understand that point. Not for one second do I want y'all to think that I'm sitting here defending the name outside of just my fanhood and my love and what I've known since the day I was born. Okay? But with that being said, and I've said this all during the time that they were changing the name, if y'all put just an ounce of the energy that y'all put into going after the name Redskins into that community, you know how much better things would be. You know how I guarantee they wouldn't care about it. I'm just saying that to me, when I look at it, that symbol, you're wearing it on your hat, on your chest. That's it for me. You know what I mean? And I mean, I'll even bring it a little closer to the fact that he was a Native American, but he has chocolate brown skin. He looked like me there was something that I could attach to just being personal. That's something I don't know. I don't want to lose that. And I understand and this is a part of a bigger conversation, so we're not going to get too deep into it. But Will, like, we talk about the Seminoles, we talk about the Blackhawks, the Cleveland Indians are going to be potentially, this is the last year having that name. We talked about the Chippewas. Some of these communities are directly meshed and directly in line with the organizations that are using their name, and I respect that. But what are we really doing? It seems like we're kind of really erasing of people.
We're going down that
marginalized.
road. Let's
Right,
do it. I know. No, I mean,
am I
you're
wrong?
right.
Am I wrong, Will? Am I wrong?
No,
Like, come on.
you're not wrong. I mean, that's what we were talking about off camera. It's like there's some of it has to do with the business sense. If some people are offended by it, then the organization of the NFL wants nothing to do with it. You know, get rid of it. You know, change the narrative to a good. And obviously, Dan Snyder had no clue how to market. The dude came up in marketing communications, and yet he botched marketing his football team and changing the narrative. You know, but it is a little bit of like, okay, Redskins has to go, Indians has to go. It's going to trickle down to Atlanta with the Braves and the tomahawk chop. It's going to slide over to the Kansas City Chiefs. I know that is a very, very powerful family that's owned. You know, they're one of the originals.
Yeah.
But like we talked about, you start a game at the Chiefs, and what are they doing? You know. So it's good. But like you said, eventually at the end, like there's a history of our country that we're just a very, very important history of our country. Yeah. Also a very set of people who were mistreated. So we can't neglect that part, but from a sports standpoint, it just seems to be like the idea is erase it all.
Right. And again, not getting too deep in it, but yeah, it's crazy because it is being erased. And listen, there is a familiarity with the name, with the team, with the logo that we have had so many years. You know what I mean? Having that the Native Americans face, the profile with the two feathers coming down is as much DC as, the Capitol and the White House being here. It's a part of this area. And for us, you and I specifically, being in this area, growing up in this area, watching football, watching Washington every single Sunday, I mean, it's as familiar to me as almost my mother and my father. You know what I mean? Because that's what we were doing. That was part of our upbringing. You know what I mean? And we get the one side, we get it, but let's not be in a hurry to push it out. One of the things that, I'm gonna get off this in a little bit. One of the things that I thought you touched on that was so well was when you look at the Seminoles and when you look at the Chippewas and you look at some of these colleges and the Illini that they changed their logo, they're trying to embrace that community. They're trying to, include them into whatever they have going on. And I think that's necessary. I think that's key. Openness. You need to be open with these communities as opposed to just, okay, this is bad or these people don't like it, let's push it away. You need to be open. Let's have that dialogue. How can we help? Yes, we can be this representation, help people in here so we can talk and do it in a way that it's not offending people, but honoring them. You know what I mean?
Well, so the team, it was the worst timing in the world for them to do this, but it was last year where their 5-year agreement ran out, where the Washington Redskins had the Original Americans Foundation, where they were raising money and giving it to tribes, not just local, but throughout the country. And horrible timing. Last year was when the agreement ended and they stopped contributing. So once again, Dan Snyder, PR nightmare. But let's also look back at, they were contributing money. They were helping to support, tribes in need. Is it buying off them? You could probably make an argument. But at the same time, is it giving folks who may need money? money, some resources to do what they want. Could there be positives of this? That's where I go back to, like, they just completely botched this whole thing. I go back to that 2016 Washington Post survey. And if you don't already recognize, the Washington football franchise and the Washington Post are at odds with each other. Yeah. If you notice, anything that the team will let leak out goes to the New York Times right now, because the Washington Post are not welcome within that building. They have to let them in, but they're not welcome. The Washington Post is the one who unveiled the cheerleader scandal and really did that digging of it. Oh. But in 2016, the Washington Post had a "we're gonna get you" moment, and they surveyed 500 Native Americans, and it's the way of, it's probably indicative of our country with politics. 10% found pride in it, 10% were offended, 80% didn't care. And Chris Cooley went around to these tribes especially whether they're on their away trips or just in general, to learn more about it. And he said that survey was indicative. He's like, he said, I saw just as many Cowboys jerseys. They weren't overall Redskins fans. They were just fans of the NFL. And if you kind of think about, wait a minute, there's Cowboy fans. If you look back to the whole Cowboys versus Indians, and you got Native Americans supporting the people who shot them. Right. Wait a minute here, because it was a little bit of, they can, there is a difference between what is a mascot, what is a team name, versus what is reality. And that's the stuff that the team botched. They came out saying, see, it's a symbol of pride, rather than saying, like, actually, 80% of Native Americans don't care, or we recognize that the name started with origins of racism, but we feel today has evolved and people see this as just a symbol of a football team and not, like you and I, our perspective is, if you were to say the words, hey, look, 3 Redskins just walked into the front door, you're only you say, oh, what players? Was it the quarterback? Would be your next thought. Right. Don't, your mind doesn't even think of going anywhere else. No. And I would bet that, I would make an assumption that that's probably a majority opinion. But so that's where it's just like, it just goes back to, I want to punch Snyder in his face for just doing a poor job with his PR of this. Like, dude, you botched this. You let the narrative, the public narrative, take over and lost yourself in delivering some facts to help people know about, like, well, how offensive is this? Is it offensive to me, but not? Is it offensive to the ones who should be offended or not? Like, I'm kind of rambling here, but
that's the truth. But that's absolutely right, dude. Because a part of me feel, we know it was money. Money definitely started and sponsorships. But the other part of me is kind of like, look, Dan Snyder has not been quiet in the league since he's gotten in the league. He's made some pretty outlandish moves and has made some pretty interesting, I don't necessarily would call them enemies, but people that will oppose him. Mm-hmm. So a lot of this stuff is the name, and I agree. I'm sure people are offended. I'm sure there is offense taken. But a lot of this is, we're going to get Dan Snyder, just like you said with what they said with the name and all that. Like, they're coming after Dan Snyder. He's making himself the target. You know what I mean? And right. And we're bearing the brunt of that. And that's, I think, the thing that kind of gets me on this, is because I feel like they're coming after that, and they're making this big deal. They put it out there in the court of public opinion, and then the public says, "Oh, this is something I can ride with." Yeah, all right, it's been racist the whole time. Meanwhile, 3-4 weeks before this stuff really got a lot of traction, nobody cared about it. Yeah. Nobody said not one word about it. The people that have been, those 10% that you talked about, that have been saying this is offensive and have been against it, they have been fighting right there. The 10% that have been for it have been fighting for it. Most of the other teams are like, the team isn't good this year, so I really don't care. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's not that big of a deal. And like we also discussed, I think the reluctancy to go after the Chiefs is because the Chiefs are doing great. They've been in 2 of the last 3 Super Bowls. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So when you're winning,
that tends to push things off to the side, just like when we were winning and dominating, in 92. And a lot of people, don't remember that when we went to the Super Bowl that year, there was a group that protested.
Yes.
There was
Metrodome.
there was a group that protested that whole thing. And that obviously with media and everything, and since we blew out the Bills 37-24, MVP Mark Rippon, let it rip, let's go. But they pushed that aside because of the result, because of all the attention it brought to DC and this and that. So I just think it's really interesting in the motives, and that's where I'll leave it. I think the motives play a big role in this. Do you have a
how about this? Yeah, how about this question to you? What is a better decision? Which organization made a better decision? Washington football franchise said, we're going to change our name immediately. We're going to come up with a temporary name before we rebrand. And as what's happened, there's been a lot of ridicule, let's go football team.
Yeah.
Okay. Or the Cleveland Indians, who have said, our name is offensive. We are going to change it starting at this season, maybe started of 2022. But until then, those of you that are offended, sorry that we're offending you, but we're going to keep the name for the next year.
Right.
Until we come up with the name, we're going to keep it. And they even came out to say, we are not going to be called the Cleveland baseball team. So, what is the better decision here? If you take a step back and maybe try and not be fans of a franchise, is it better to say, okay, our name's offensive and we're changing it, as opposed to our name is offensive, but you can live with it for the next 2 years until we come up with a new one?
Exactly. Well, that's a great point. That's a great point because on one side you're still getting the change, but it's just not happening anytime soon. And I understand that because let's look at it this way: we've gotten used to the name Washington football team, but let's not act like this that whole summer and leading up to the name we weren't the laughing stock. You know what I mean? All last year. Our play obviously didn't help, but all last year, people, you don't even have a name. You're the football team. Up until we went into Pittsburgh with Alex Smith and shut down the undefeated Steelers, up until then, everybody was dogging us. Oh, name curse. You guys aren't going to win anything because of the name, this and this and that. I'm glad we did it and we moved the way we did, but I kind of like the Indian stance, in the Cleveland Indian stance, because it's saying, listen, you got through to us. We're going to take these steps and these measures to make the change. However, we have, I guess the contract or whatever until this time. So we're going to keep it until this time. With us doing it the way we did, we know the background. We know it was for finance. We know what they were doing. But it was almost kind of like, all right, let's do these things. Just like with all the minority hirings, it's kind of like, let's do these things so we're not putting the spotlight on Dan Snyder. So we're not sitting here having everybody pay attention to Dan Snyder and all the things he's got going on. And that's my thing. That's the thing that I think messed with me, because it made the name trivial, really, and it made it, he's got to get himself out of a bind. So, hey, I own this organization. Let me just play with this for a little bit.
Once again, the dumbest, worst owner in sports, and has no idea how to run a franchise. That he botched this too. He even botched the changing of the name. Dude, how is this guy still around? Come on.
Thank you. How
with this stuff that's coming out has the NFL not said, we are going to sever ties with you? You are a black mark on our organization, on our brand, and you've got to go. Yeah.
I don't know. We know at least for the near future, he ain't going anywhere. So we're going to have to suck it up and deal with this mess. But he just keeps creating more and more nonsense and then tries to cover his tracks with some of these moves. But he's just...
he steps in his own shit. That's what he does.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But listen, we can't spend no more time on him. We got to move on. But that is definitely, tune in the coming week because that is a great, great conversation to have. Talking about the logos and these trademarks and talking about how important they really are to said communities, to those who they appear to be offending, and, how much of this stuff really has other different issues in the background that are kind of pushing this to the forefront. But yeah, we definitely want to get the other guys in here, and we'll bring that up in the coming weeks. Ladies and gentlemen, we got to move on. We got to move on to the longest running segment on Washington Football Weekly. Like it, love it, or hated it. yeah, buddy. Shout out to my guy, the shirtless wonder, Abdullah. Still missing you, buddy. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Anton, you too, man. I know you're grinding. We'll get it together. So first and foremost on Like It, Love It, Hate It. We talked about it when it happened. We lost one of the anchors of our line, Morgan Moses. He went over, had conversations with the Bears. Things didn't necessarily pan out. They're potentially still in the running. Now it looks like they're close to a deal with the Jets, but it yet has not happened. Do you like it, love it, or hate it, Will?
I like this. I like it for him. I think I've got a lot of hope for the Jets coach and the offensive coordinator that he brought with him, and I think they're starting off with the right building blocks. And they drafted a left tackle last year. They drafted the guard this year. You could add Morgan Moses. You've got a new quarterback in there. Like that's for him. That there could be a lot of exciting things for this. This is where I wish Abdul was on this show too, because he was really ticked off over this. I'll be honest with you here. I have more problems and get hit harder in the heart watching Bryce Harper play in Philadelphia and wonder, what could have been, than I do seeing Morgan Moses play for another team. I thought he was a good player. I didn't quite think that necessarily he needed to be cut by Washington right now, but I don't care. I feel like they've got his replacements. And so I've moved on. And more, I hope the best for Morgan Moses. But I'm more pissed off over either Anthony Rendon or Bryce Harper than I am Morgan Moses. But that's a whole different audience and sport and everything. But so for me, I'm like, put yourself in a good situation. Good for you.
Right. Yeah. Me personally, I love this in the sense of piggybacking on what you were talking about. I love what the Jets have. I think they're building over there with Robert Salah as their coach. I love how they're building a team. They picked up, we all know they got Zach Wilson in the draft. They also got Elijah Vera Tucker, somebody to think Morgan Moses would work well with as kind of the senior statesman, helping out this young guy coming into the league. They got my boy Michael Carter from North Carolina. So honestly, oh yeah. Amazing. This guy should have been a first round pick. All right. Everybody, North Carolina's home front line now.
Oh yeah, great player.
But they have weapons over there. This isn't Sam Darnold and Le'Veon leaving halfway through the year. This isn't that. This is a team. I really believe they're building something in an AFC East that we know Buffalo, and unless Buffalo has any serious injuries, I think they're head and shoulders above. But those next three teams, and you got the Dolphins, the Jets, and
Patriots.
The Patriots. Those two other teams, I'm not necessarily sold on. We don't know what Cam's going to do. Hopefully he does good. They do have a lot of their players coming back, and they made a lot of moves in the offseason. So you assume they're going to do really good. But again, they still got to mesh and gel. Okay. Miami, you got Tua on his first full year. They got a number of draft picks. They got a nice, solid defense. But again, it's still up in the air. I really think the Jets are going to steal some victories, and this guy could be one of those cornerstones to building this up. So I like it. I like it for him. I like it for the fact that teams are wooing him, because that's what I want. I didn't want him to just sit out here and not get, we cut him and now he's just sitting on the bench for this year. I love that teams are coming after him because, hey, he's a reliable guy, He's going to do his best to make it on the field, like Anton was talking about, So, yeah, shout out to him. I like this. I absolutely like this. Moving on, and like it, love it, or hate it, and Will, I'm going to come to you again. Updated COVID protocol. So I'm going to read a little bit. So essentially, the way that they're breaking it down now is either you're fully vaccinated or you're not fully vaccinated. So if you have one shot, that does not push you in the fully vaccinated category. You're either fully or not. And there's a very stark difference in those two. If you're fully vaccinated, you don't have to get tested daily. You don't have to wear a mask at the club facility or during team travel. You don't have to physical distance, no quarantine. If you're a high risk exposure to COVID, no restrictions with travel, no capacities and the limits of the weight room when you're fully vaccinated. You can eat in the cafeteria with other fully vaccinated people. I mean, you use sauna. I mean, everything. It's just you're free essentially. Once you're fully vaccinated, you can go back to as much normal as you possibly could since the pandemic. Now, if you are not fully vaccinated, it's almost like you got COVID. I mean, it's almost like you're locked down. You got to be tested daily. Mask required in the facility. You must still remain physically distanced. You got to quarantine if you've been next to or have a high risk for exposure to COVID. Your travel is restricted. There's only 15 players that could be in the weight room with you while you're in the weight room. This is if you're not fully vaccinated. Okay? Players must be physically distanced in the meal room, and they may not eat with teammates. Stuff must be grab-and-go meals in the cafeteria. I mean, come on. Making them feel like pariahs. Like, you can't use the sauna. You can't leave the team hotel to eat in restaurants and things. So, Will, I get it, and I'm with it. But what do you think? Is this too extreme?
It's pretty extreme.
Yeah.
It's pretty extreme. I guess this is where there's no way of, hiding your own beliefs in a topic and staying behind the facts. So I love it.
Yeah.
I because I think, part of the reason I love it is I actually got educated a couple weeks ago talking to somebody, and I was very surprised that this group was not meeting in person. And I was like, why aren't you meeting in person? People are vaccinated. Start meeting in person. And they said, there's people who still can't be vaccinated. And I actually pushed back, and I made a fool out of myself. And I was like, tell me who can't be. And there are people with health conditions that this vaccine, there's not enough research for them.
Yeah.
Or the whatever treatments they're going, like someone who's undergoing chemotherapy would not be receiving this vaccine. Not to say that's the people that you're going to be around on an NFL facility, but it goes back to the concept of the vaccine, just like wearing a mask. It's not always about you. It's about the people you don't know. Yeah. And so this is a way to basically say, we're not going to tell you need to be vaccinated. We can't force you. I don't believe the law can force a organization from making sure you're vaccinated, but we're going to make it as dang hard as possible for you if you were to choose not to. And we're going to make life so miserable that you're not going to enjoy this, and you're going to get called out among your teammates. Yeah. And I think it goes to a little bit of a camaraderie, a teammate factor here, where hey, we're all doing this. Just what's the difference between, to me, I don't know if I can see a difference between we're all busting our tails in the off season to get in shape. We're showing up on time for team meetings during the season and studying the playbook, and you're not getting vaccinated.
Yeah.
And what, and let's not be fools here and not recognize that there's a business side of this. The NFL does not want, Ab said it wonderfully, what if Montez Sweat gets it, and then he gives it to Chase Young, and then he gives it to the entire defensive line? We're worried about from a player perspective, but what about the NFL looking at it from a business perspective? Yeah. And they had that, the debacle of the Ravens last year, moving games around. And if the NFL can have all of their players or a majority of their players as safe as possible and playing week in and week out. And we can almost, as far as we can, guarantee Mahomes versus Rodgers on the Denver Broncos in week one, something like that. Like, that is what they're looking for here by making these extreme policies to basically say, like, you don't have to get vaccinated, but you're going to hate it. And for the Cole Beasleys out there, if you want to threaten retirement, go. There's another Cole Beasley right behind you, buddy. Yep. You make no dent on society on your team. No one's going to miss you. And it also shows with some of the stuff he's saying, similar to Montez Sweat, it's like there's still some information being missed here by the speaker who's saying it. So yeah, man, I'm all for it. Make it happen so that we can continue to build back life to being normal.
Right. And I know I love what you said. I gotta piggyback on your point. I mean, it reminds me of the situation in as far as the camaraderie. It reminds me of the situation that we had, or what we were mad at Dwayne Haskins for. All of us are working our butts off and we're trying to do our best in this COVID era with our coach, who is, like you talked about, who is on chemo, who's getting IVs in the locker room at halftime during the game. And your obvious, attention is on, whatever else. Not even going to sit here and call out just strip club. You obviously weren't focused on playing because your play didn't. And that, I think, that's more about the camaraderie. If you and I are both trying to make it to another place, we're trying to make it to this level, we know there's certain things that we need to do, certain sacrifices that we need to make. Okay. Mm-hmm. I understand that you might not be as educated as people, but what I don't understand, when we have everything at our fingertips as far as phones and information, that you can't first educate yourself and then secondly think, let's be very, very honest right now. Like they proved to us last year with the many hundreds of thousands of tests they gave throughout last season, NFL players are priority. They're not going to get, the different low grade version of the vaccine. They're going to get whatever is premium to keep them on the field because, again,
big business.
It's a business. It's a business. You're a commodity. I need you on the field to play. If you're not doing this and now you're jeopardizing the team, going back to what Ab said, that's an issue. Mm-hmm. We had a practice squad wide receiver dress, and we had the Denver Broncos actually ask if a coach could dress as quarterback because all of that quarterback room was out because of COVID. Mm-hmm. I listen, I get it. If you don't, because there's a lot of communities. And I can speak for my community because I went to an event with family members, and I had told them, hey, I'm double vaccinated, I'm good, and a lot of them were like, I'm not getting it, I'm not and a lot of that is what they're being taught, what they're being told is X, Y, and Z, and so now they're shutting it off, and it's something similar to Montez Sweat where you're being told, you don't have to worry about it, blah, 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 blah. But at the same time, you still have a coach that's going through this stuff in remission, all that stuff. We still have these issues coming along. We had, one of the players on the team, I don't know if it was Ioannidis or somebody that had it, a year ago. So these are things that you do with the team. They're not going to give you something that's going to be a detriment or is going to hurt you. You know what I mean? They're not going to put you in danger that way. So to me, me personally, I love it. I absolutely love it because if what our goal is, if the end goal is to get us back to 100% capacity, get us back to being as open and as free as we were in 2019, then these are the necessary steps that we need to take. You going back and forth about this, you know what that's doing? It's extending the point. Like, we're just sitting back here in the same stuff. Nothing's going to change. We're going to keep going back and forth in this because those of you that have this decision and have made this decision and go in that direction. If you don't want to, look, it's your choice at the end of the day. But there's getting to the point in America where the vaccine is, the knowledge is out there, the accessibility is out there, you can get it. And it's getting to the place where certain things are making it so it's required. We've heard about how they're saying on planes and stuff that, once you're gonna have to be vaccinated or get tested or this and that before going places. It's required. These are what they're trying to do. This is what is being pushed. So guys, if you need to do research, do your research. But I think this is key. After what we went through last year, and you mentioned it, talking about the Ravens, this is key because we don't want that to happen. Tennessee, remember all that nets they had where a couple of their players got fined because they were practicing together after they had a COVID outbreak. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, these are serious things. And unfortunately, at the end of the day, like you said, it's business. It all comes back to that money. When their wallets get hit, that's when we need to make certain moves. And this affected that piggy bank a lot last year. So yeah, I'm with it. I hope they go along and get tested. And again, this isn't impossible. If you're not fully vaccinated and you don't mind going about things the way you're going about things, more power to you. But I think it's those teams that are really able to come together will be the ones that are able to handle that stuff in-house. You know what I mean? It does make me raise an eyebrow a little bit when you hear those, like we talked about Montez Sweat from a week ago and how he's kind of pushing back towards it. And you're right. But at the same time, to me, with him being a solid player, I don't want people to follow in that. And it's your opinion. It's your right. You can do what you want. But at the same time, we're talking about a team. You're not thinking about yourself, like Ab was saying. It's not just about you. It's about family. It's about your teammates. It's about your coaches. Your main coach who you love, you know what I mean, who just got through cancer. It's about that, and I think people need to pay attention to those things.
Well, and you think about who they're around. A lot of these guys are, so they're at the age like 21 to 40. Yeah. During that time, especially for where we're at right now, that is your prime years of starting a family. And so whether it's your wife or if you have young kids that aren't eligible to be vaccinated, it's like, is your decision going to affect your teammate? And that could affect his family. And it just goes back to the more thinking beyond what do I need? Where do I need? What is important to me? And trying to be more about like, can we do more to others? Why don't we practice what we freaking read on Sunday mornings more often?
Yep.
Instead of walking out of the doors, forgetting it all, and going back to our regular lives. Yep. Man, that's a whole other soapbox you could get. Wow. But, but at least for 1 hour of the week.
Yo!
You're righteous.
You're right. You're talking to 14-year-old Sean, man. That's another one I think I used to remember. I'd be like, yo, I don't understand how people could be so hooting and hollering and so just animated in church and the Holy Spirit and this and that. And then not more than an hour later, they're just on another plane going back to the same nonsense they're doing before. And I'm just like, what? Practice what you preach, ladies and gentlemen. Practice what you preach. And listen, again, we're not pointing anybody out because, hey, like my mom told me, point a finger at somebody, you got 3 pointing right back at you. So we're not calling you out and this and that. But at the same time, you guys, you got to put – we're in a team sport here. You know what I mean? We're in a team sport that is heavily relied on fan interaction and fan support and fans coming in. We all want to get back to supporting these players and get back to the stadium and tailgate and all these things. But we need to do some things that are going to help to prevent anything that happened last year. We have to. We cannot have that again anytime soon, especially with all the stuff they're talking about and the variants and this and that. Guys, do your due diligence, man. If you don't trust it, do your research, figure it out. And if you still don't, hey, I understand. But think about the people around you. That's all we're saying. That's all we're saying. So, yeah, buddy. So we gotta we canceling that. Yeah, buddy. So hey, that's definitely a testy subject.
It's sensitive.
Yeah, very, very sensitive. And we will definitely, as we get closer to season, I'm guarantee it will probably rear its ugly head again. We will definitely bring that back up with Ab, with Anton, get their opinions on it, as well as discussing the name change and what the real uproar was about. Because we really still have yet to face that time when we're going back into the stadiums and we still all have Redskins on, and you know what I mean. And it's
what's going to happen that first touchdown, dude?
Right. Are we singing this song? I mean, come on! I'm not going to stop just singing that song. Hail to the Redskins! I'm sorry, that's. Oh man. But hey, we can go on for days on that one because that one that hits home. That definitely hits home. So absolutely love this. Definitely want to shout out my man Ab, because in the coming weeks, we discussed it last week. Ab's segment is going to be coming up called I got a theory. I got a theory. My man Abs. My man Abs is going to talk about some of the different things that he believes are kind of going on behind the scenes and the reason why things are playing out the way they have. And he touched on it a week ago with this whole thing with Martin McCauley and him trademarking the names and having all those things together. So check that out. Definitely check us out. Check out the last episode because it's very interesting. Mm-hmm. It's very interesting. Also, got to shout out my man Will, man, because he gave me an idea of something that we're going to do to bring in the new season. And we're going to do a season preview where we interview the fans. We go out, interview fans, talk about their team, talk about their star players, how they felt about the draft, and what are their predictions for this upcoming season. So we were actually was able over this Father's Day weekend. Hey, my man, let me say this. Happy belated Father's Day.
Oh, yeah.
Kramer. Shout out to Ab. Happy belated Father's Day to him.
Yeah.
So I definitely had to shout it out. And I was with actually both of my brothers. And we were actually able to do one interview about the Panthers and one about the New York Football Giants. So I'm gonna show you these real quick. They're on YouTube, but I want to give you a little snippets of what the interview was like. I mean, you've had a year without Cam. How do you feel, man?
Man, I don't feel great. I'm not gonna lie. Without Cam is hard. Even every good team has their struggles as a team, and regardless of Cam's struggles, I think all the Panthers fans could believe in him and have faith that even if we lost, he still has that charisma to get us back next week. And so there's a lot more we're losing than just Cam's athletic ability. We're losing his personality, his charisma, his leadership. And so right now we're kind of searching for our new person, and it hasn't been the easiest, but got to move on.
Saquon was out for you. Is he coming? Is he going to be the comeback player of the year? Like, you see that, or would you rather just say, "Hey, sit back. Let's make sure you're 100%."
That's what I like to see. That's what I like to see. I do not like him to rush back into the starting position. And of course, all these other teams gonna be gunning for him.
Yep. Target.
So I can't see. Not yet.
Hopefully he can get some PT, but you're gonna need to put somebody else in there if you don't want to rush Saquon back.
Yeah.
You don't want him to be like RG3.
Please let's not discuss it.
RG3, Robert. I mean, it's only fitting that we put Robert's name out here while I'm on here with my brother. At times
he underestimated that.
I love that.
Yeah, I want y'all to notice at the very end, my brother said we underestimated RG3. Oh, what could have been, man. Oh, what could have been.
I think I have to agree with him that, hey, let's ease Saquon back in. Let's not start playing him much until about maybe week 3, maybe 4. Give him week 2 off. Why don't you, New York Giants?
Oh yeah. Let him rest. Let him rest. And it's funny because what he said, if you keep rolling that clip, he was saying, he's going to have a target on his back. And he was saying, especially when he comes to Washington is going to go after him. And one of the things he mentioned was that, because you guys have never gotten over what my boy LT did to Joe Theismann in his leg. And I was like, really? That's what I brought you on camera so you can say that? So, tune in, that interview is definitely on YouTube. My interview with Jared Spencer and my interview with my older brother, Daryl Spencer. Tune into those interviews. They're funny. We were outside fighting the gnats and all that stuff, but grilling for my dad for his for Father's Day. So definitely tune into that. And I'm definitely gonna be I'm gonna be hitting up people, periodically throughout the weeks, getting closer to the season, so we can talk about their teams and then make a little season preview video towards the end of the year. One thing that I thought was funny though is apparently my brother seems to think his Giants are going to be in second place come season's end next year. My brother thinks that the Giants are going to be number 2. He thinks Philly's number 1. He thinks Washington's going to be 3rd and Dallas is going to be in the basement. I said, what? Right, exactly. I was like, Philly? Seriously, Philly though? I was like, Philly? Yeah, that's, get out of here. So, tune into those because those are pretty interesting. Because it was good hearing him. And check out my younger brother, Jared Spencer. I didn't realize, and maybe this is not because of me. Maybe it's his own knowledge and his own attention to the game and things of that nature. But I did not realize how much knowledge he has on the game. We went game through game of the Panthers schedule. We broke down each of those. We talked about similar to Saquon. We talked about Christian McCaffrey. Mm-hmm. Do you rush him back? He was dealing with an injury. Mm-hmm. You got Sam Darnold out there. We talked about him and Bridgewater and, that transition. Is there really any improvement? And one of the first things we talked about, and I should have done this clip, was how does my brother feel about your boy, South Carolina's own J.C. Horn? And he loves it. Hopefully he said, make him, the shutdown corner, make him the, starting over there. They have Jeremy Chin and I think Bradbury left, but they have a couple other guys that, solid in that secondary. Mind you, we're only 5-6 years removed from them being in the Super Bowl, with, led by Ron Rivera. But, definitely check that out. I kind of talked to him about how Washington is now the new Carolina Panthers. I didn't hurt him. I didn't bring up Luke Kuechly coming in and visiting Washington. Right. I didn't want to break his heart. I didn't want to hurt his feelings.
Wait till he sees that burgundy and gold on Luke Kuechly.
Yes, sir.
That's going to be tough.
Yes, sir. Luke Kuechly comes out of retirement. What?
Right.
Shout out to both of them taking the time doing those interviews with me. Check them out. They're on YouTube. And hey, look forward to all the things we have coming in. Look forward to it. We got some fantasy football coming up this fall. We're doing another mock draft. We got the preseason games. We're locking up. We're starting to figure out which games we're going to be going to this coming season. So stay with us, guys. The few of you that have been watching during these barren, bleak months. We're not really talking about much. But stay with us. We definitely appreciate the love. We appreciate the support. Wendy was on here. Nathan shouted us out, said what's up. Janae shouted us out. So glad you're back. We're definitely going to get you on here soon. Yeah. So, hey, you know who it is. It's your boy, Sean Spencer. I got my guy over here, South Carolina's eggplant, Dub K, Mr. Will Kramer in the building. Yes, sir. Thank you so much for joining me, Will.
Always a pleasure.
Yes, sir. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, until next time. We will see you later.
Hello, everybody.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
I am Janae Struther.
I'm Sean Spencer.
We are back.
We are back, ladies and gentlemen.
I gotta go out and hold up.
Come on. The line. You need to so fine. Kirk Cousins. Woo!
this. All right. I am Janae
I
Struther,
am Sean Spencer.
and this is Let's Talk